if you stick to military targets, especially as they are in Iran, you can really, really limit any civilian casualties on the populace. And remember, the people aren't super happy with the regime in Iran right now.
No, there have been a lot of protests, yeah.
There's a lot of protests. And so which way do they go on this? If they see, now one of the reasons that they have such a problem with the regime or doing anything about it.
Here we go again.
For example, the last protest, I think there were reports of, up to 1,500 Iranian civilians killed, another 2,000 imprisoned. They can't do anything. But if you take out some of this infrastructure that is, Iran's domestic infrastructure as well, the people may see an opportunity to rise up. I don't know that would happen, but the opportunity may be there. Or Iran will have to rebuild so much that they just will not be able to project any power around the globe at all.
Wow,
I mean, that is conceivable.
So the goal
Dave,
could be to
that's a pretty
decimate
dramatic
Iran.
Picture that you've painted for us. Hunter, what do you think of the likelihood of that, of the U.S. responding to the point where it just wipes out the military? Not a regime change, but just gets rid of the military.
Not a regime change,
I
just
think
gets rid of the military.
Things that we have to look at right now. What is the likelihood that the U.S. would respond, and what would happen afterwards? And I think the likelihood that we will respond is very high. As we were saying earlier,
not a regime change. We're just going to wipe out the government and try to take over Iran. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the plan.
And everyone I've talked to, including sources close to the president, right after the Soleimani killing, were very clear that this was likely going to lead to escalation. I mean, one person said to me, this is a source close to the president, they attacked us, referring to the protests at the Baghdad embassy. We attacked them. They're going to have to respond now. Quote, we are on this path. But the other question is what you were posing before, what would happen and what is this likelihood, and that your prior guest was saying that we would totally wipe out their military. And that
so if we want to wipe out their military, wipe out their government and take over so we can reap the profits of their oil, similar to 1980s when we toppled or tried to take over their government because they wanted to nationalize their oil supply.
Which were much smaller countries with, smaller military capabilities.
I'll tell you what, I'm sorry, I do not speak Spanish.
If we look at the lessons of history, we are right now playing with a situation that is very similar to the other conflicts we've gotten in the Mideast, and they have not been remotely as easy to extricate ourselves from or end as a lot of people predicted at the outset. So I definitely don't want to be someone predicting that this, is guaranteed to be some kind of tremendous success for us. This is, even the people in the White House are aware this is a very dangerous situation.
Very dangerous situation. Cool.
Wiping out the military complex would have repercussions far beyond.
So that's what they're saying now. We want to wipe out their entire military, wipe out their government, so we could basically take over the
weapons.
Take over the government, take over the country, take over their oil.
All kinds of
we're on the path for
infrastructure repercussions.
It's always great when we do that.
And then we sort of be on the hook for, what's going to happen to these people, right?
Much.
And let's look at what happened in Iraq, right? We did essentially affect regime change there, but a lot of the leadership of the Ba'ath Party ended up becoming the leadership of ISIS. So,
if we destabilize the area yet again, it's Portuguese. I am
years now,
apologetic.
And
I did not know.
It's hard for me to envision a situation where
last time we tried this strategy to topple the government.
Okay, so where will it end then? Where will the U.S. escalation
from Brazil.
end? Because
very
obviously,
cool.
if we keep going tit for
tat,
we
tried the strategy
Iran
before.
The
U.S. tried the strategy, toppling a government, taking over the oil.
Word.
We tried it before. You know what? It did not work for us.
We haven't had the final word in the Mideast in a long time.
Creates a vacuum in the area.
You are right. As I was saying, even sources close to the president kind of expect tit for tat here. One thing that I would note is
Trump might be appearing
really the last time
in the Oval Office tonight. They are preparing for a speech from Trump. I'm not sure what time that will happen.
Praying Mantis. And that's when we struck
I'm trying to figure that out.
Territorial waters in retaliation for the mining of the Persian Gulf. And obviously we were able to sort of de-escalate the tensions at that time. And, earlier this summer, President Trump had this similar situation where the U.S. drone was struck. He had these red lines in his rhetoric, but by his own admission, he didn't want to do a disproportionate response, and he was able to sort of de-escalate then. So, potentially we could de-escalate now, but if we do get into this continued tit-for-tat that seems to be beginning,
hey, a little
it's really
so
hard to predict.
United States has a military base in Iraq,
regime,
and Iran sent like 12 ballistic missiles there.
The importance here was to save face, right? To look as if.
And there's not much reporting on it yet, but if we go to the world of Twitter, which is where you have to, find all your information,
in Iran watching state
go
TV,
to the trending.
It looks like a big deal, right, on your television.
And this is just childish.
So
this is just childish. Iran versus USA. Everyone's making this a meme yet again. I mean, and there's this thing coming out that 30 U.S. troops were killed, but apparently it's not true. So people are just sharing it. People are just sharing it for no reason.
Maybe we let it end here.
And there's no truth behind it. It's not proven. It's not justified to be sharing this. So if you see 30 U.S. troops, this is not verified. No intelligence has said this. But yeah, this airbase was struck. This is actually the same airbase. A couple days ago, Iraq, their government voted to get the U.S. out of there. And basically, Donald Trump told Iraq, you have to pay for the airbase, and then we'll leave. And the airbase that he said this for is the same one that they ended up striking. That Iran ended up striking in Iraq is the airbase that Donald Trump was told to leave, and then he said, oh, if you pay for it, we'll leave. This is that exact base. So just remember, this 30 U.S. troops thing is not true if you see it.
Say that, with his stature in the society, it was almost like...
I know CNN posted like visuals for this for some reason because they're amazing.
Yep.
I think they might have posted it on here.
Digital eye strain?
We're just getting a statement from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps saying that it has hit the U.S. Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq with what they describe as tens of missiles. This, according to Press TV, an urgent banner on Iranian television. Arwa Damon is in Baghdad for us. What are you hearing over there, Arwa?
Well, what we do have from one Sunni paramilitary commander who is based not too far away from al-Assad itself.
The missiles did damage. We don't know what it did yet. And the story that's trending on Twitter right now, this 30 U.S. troops, this is not true. This is not verified that 30 U.S. troops died.
The barrage that he had been hearing has ended. But as I was saying, we don't know at this stage if there were any casualties. It's worth noting, Wolf, that al-Assad airbase does not just house U.S. forces. It's a massive, sprawling complex in Al-Anbar province, where you also have the presence of the Iraqi security forces themselves. Also worth noting that this is a location that has been hit in the past, but it is potentially one of the targets that would be on a target list for the Iranians, not just in the sense of what they're able
Twitter
to fire at it in the way that they're saying that they have, but also because of the presence of these Iranian-backed paramilitary forces here. The U.S. military has, if you'll remember, suspended its anti-ISIS operations and its training missions because they wanted to be focusing on force protection. These types
my theory is we're doing the same thing we tried in 01. We're going to say we're going to go in and topple the military, topple the government in Iran, and say we're going to change the regime and make the people fight for get a democracy, when in reality we want to control the profits of the oil. Yeah, 13 missiles, that is, I think that's true. It was definitely over a dozen.
The testing of the waters to see what kind of a reaction there will be, but most certainly we have been hearing over the last
that is
few
true
nights,
what she just said. This might be a test to see how Trump will respond. This might not be. I don't think this is the exact
mortars being
response,
fired
but
towards Al-Balad
this isn't the official response. This is like dipping your foot in a pool before getting in to make sure it's not too cold.
Gate of the base, and so we have been seeing a slight uptick in activity over the last few nights, but again, it was just a few rockets or mortars here and there. No significant reports of casualties in any of those attacks, and we're waiting to try and get more information as to where exactly inside al-Assad Air Base these rockets may have hit and if there were any casualties caused by them.
Well, this could be the start of the Iranian retaliation for the killing of the Iraqi General Qasem Soleimani. Barbara Starr is over at the Pentagon. Barbara, you heard the breaking news. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Yeah, so Trump might be speaking tonight. I am waiting on that. He is said to be reporting soon from the Oval Office. Well, I shouldn't say soon, but at a time not yet explored. I'm trying to wait to see that because he should be addressing the nation tonight, and they're preparing a speech for him, which he'll go off, of course, so that'll be really interesting. But if we look at Twitter right now, this 30 U.S. troops dying, this is not verified. So if you see this, this is not verified. And of course, we're going to be making memes out of it because that's what we do nowadays. And I think the hashtag Iran versus USA in general is just such a childish framing. But of course, the first thing that came out once World War III started trending were memes.
If it turns out to be short-range ballistic missiles or cruise missiles, we do not know that yet.
Hello, Denorth. Yeah, so you know about all the stuff that happened with Iran and the USA. Iran sent some retaliation to a U.S. basis in Iraq. They sent a couple of missiles, about 13
Who fired
rockets.
And how many bases in Iraq did they fire against? This has been the concern that
nothing
the
is
regime
reported yet as far as casualties go.
And right now, what you have to remember is this is essentially U.S. forces under attack inside Iraq. So
so when they say U.S. forces are under attack and U.S. forces are under or are in danger from Iran, they mean U.S. forces in the Middle East. As far as we know, every intelligence report says they are not focusing on the U.S. homeland in any way. It's only in places where the U.S. has stationed in other countries.
For the Trump administration to come out and talk to the American people about what may be happening.
Well, yeah, it's interesting too because Russia and Iran is Russia's biggest ally in the region. So if they sent this missile strike, then I think Russia is stroking it. And this might be part of a bigger plot for Russia to achieve some type of dominance and tear apart the USA from within as well. No, there is. I mean, I'm guessing there's damage. I saw the video earlier of the rockets hit on CNN on my actual television, which is the best news site.
In Lebanon, and
I think that's what this is right here.
Economic straits, and they're going, "What are we doing?" And that's where a lot of these protests started coming from.
Right.
So, and how much is this galvanized? I'm not.
It's so interesting because that is exactly the sort of the portion of the population that the revolution was supposed to serve were sort of the poor, disenfranchised areas.
I think that's a video of it, but there's no flashes.
Like you said, watching that spending and feeling infuriated by it.
That's right, but you can.
So if Trump speaks tonight, I assume he's going to. I mean, I'm 90% sure he is. But when he does, I assume he's going to try to stroke a flame. He's going to say, because he was waiting for this, he was waiting for Iran to respond so that he could respond yet again. So I think what Iran did here is send a little shot so that they could set up a bigger platform for the future. See how Donald Trump responds to this.
And in order to do that,
because this wasn't an extreme measure, especially in that region.
Involved with Lebanon, constantly involved with Hezbollah. So you're right. I mean, one of the biggest problems with revolutionaries is when they win, they have to govern, and all of a sudden they're like,
how can we remain as revolutionaries when we're now?
See if there's any other sources. Because
want to sell online? Go to Wix.com today and do it like this guy.
Fox 10 Phoenix, they're authoritative. What's this? Well, this is useless. That's real cool. That's awesome. Great source. Great source. You know what? You know what's a good news source? Twitter. Twitter's a great news source. Let's see.
Exactly. All right. Well, Dave, I want to bring in Olivia.
Yeah, so this guy's saying we should be standing for peace because no one is standing for any type of peace. Oh, boy. So this guy had an interesting theory on Twitter that I saw earlier. I'm not sure if I had it open and I just closed it out like an idiot. Yeah, this guy right here. So he's saying basically I want to express this carefully because I don't want to minimize anything that results in a loss of life. I'm going to mute this quick. But missiles flying back and forth in the Middle East is all too common, something the U.S. can handle, and not what makes me nervous about the Soleimani situation. So he goes on to say, what makes me nervous is illustrated in the Wall Street Journal story. The Iranian government has always operated on its own timeline. If you think Iran lobbing missiles over the border is the kind of revenge they ultimately have in mind, you're wrong. Number 3, for example, in 2012, assassins kill an Iranian nuclear chemist, likely directed by Israel. Iran promises revenge. Where does the ultimate revenge take place? A month later in Georgia, India, and Thailand, where Israeli diplomats are targeted with bombs. So, also in 1992, IDF killed the Secretary General of Hezbollah. Where did Iran retaliate? Somewhere else. So he's saying, like I said, that what they're doing here is dipping their feet in the water, and seeing how the U.S. responds. And Donald Trump should be addressing the nation tonight, and I'm hoping to catch that, because that will be very interesting to see how he tries to portray this whole event. Because 90% of these conflicts is how they're able to shape it within our country. Because Donald Trump wants a war. I think it's pretty apparent that he wants a war, and we know that he thinks a war will help him, especially considering his comments towards Barack Obama when he said he thought Obama was going to start a war to get reelected. So Donald Trump criticizing Obama, through that we know what Donald Trump thinks works. So if Donald Trump ever said anything to Obama in which he thought something would help him get reelected about what Obama could do, then that's something Trump will try because he thinks it works. So Trump confirmed he's not going to address the nation tonight. All right, that's good. I don't want him to talk. Ukraine with USA Brotherhood. Hello, welcome. Can't wait. This guy's comment is amazing. They have initiated a strike on our military, and now the sky will be raining blood. Can't wait for the new Call of Duty enemy. Wow. Ooh, a guy called me a leftist traitor. Oh, no. I am a leftist traitor. Fear me.
Clear if they will have their hands for that update. And we're going to bring in now CBS News foreign correspondent Ian Lee. Ian,
Trump
rockets
2020.
were launched near the U.S. consulate in Erbil, very close to where you are. What's the latest on the ground there?
Well, Tanya, it's a really fluid situation right now. People are just waiting to see if there's going to be another barrage of rockets. I think, those 2 rockets, we heard them actually a little after 1 in the morning here, local time. We heard 2 loud explosions. Those were just north of the consulate. What we're hearing, though, is there no casualties have been reported.
By the way, to celebrate the chat calling me a leftist traitor, please consider subscribing to support the leftist traitor, as you see in chat.
Fairly calm around there, no sense of emergency. So it seems like those missiles landed quite far north of the consulate, north of the American military presence here in Erbil.
Yeah, that is true.
But the question,
the media is releasing their spin on it. It did happen a while ago, and now the media is going to play this big game where they're like, oh my goodness, everything is breaking news. We have to show the public this, and when in reality they want clicks. Now they're going to construct this whole story. They're going to really push this, try to get...
too. So again, a very tense evening here.
And Ian, the airbase that was targeted was a coalition base. There weren't only U.S. troops there. Do we know how others are responding?
All civilian flights banned from Iraq, Iran, the Gulf, and the Gulf of Oman.
Well, right now, it really is just wait and see what's going to happen. We're expecting the president to talk potentially a little later to kind of give us an update of what's going on. But right now, what we're hearing about, at least from that base, they're assessing the damage, assessing what happened. We haven't heard of any casualties at the Al-Assad Air Base, which is west of Baghdad, about 100 miles. But you said it is a coalition air base. We are hearing reports that, before this happened, that other members of the coalition
I wouldn't
party
really take
were
a flight right now.
Figuring out ways to leave Iraq after the Iraqi parliament said that they want all foreign troops out of the country. But one thing also we're going to be watching this evening is we're hearing the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran, threatening regional allies that if somehow they're mixed up in all
See,
this,
the point
that
we're at
Iran's
right now,
saying that they're willing
it's hard
to,
not to respond
target
because
them
we
as
already
well.
started the fight. You don't like start a fight and then stop
region,
punching.
a lot of them are on edge tonight.
What we should have done is not start the fight in the beginning. But our position moving forward,
thank you so much for that,
could be a lot smarter than
David
simply
Martin joins me
war.
now from the Pentagon. He is a CBS News senior national security correspondent.
Government.
David, what's the very latest on this fluid situation?
Well, the latest is that the attacks occurred, more than a dozen ballistic missiles, and now the U.S. is, quote unquote, evaluating what its response will be. But the U.S. has been warning for days now that Iran would be held responsible for any attack against American interests. And here you have an attack launched directly from Iranian territory on two bases where American troops are located. So I don't think there's any doubt that this attack crosses a red line.
I still think this is more symbolic than an actual strategic move.
And the question really is
or not
the
that it's not a strategic
strike
move,
going to be limited in scope?
It's more
to,
of a
just the missile base,
calculated move.
For instance,
this isn't
which
the
fired
actual
these missiles,
attack.
Or is it going to be a much broader attack, which
VP Pence,
goes
the Secretaries
after
of Defense and State just left the White House.
Headquarters of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, for instance, since that is the military unit that launched these strikes. All that is still in play right now, as is any assessment of how much damage was done to these bases by
they should
these
not record
missiles.
next to a live friggin'
Pentagon
plane.
is
That's
saying
loud in the
very little
background there. I can
about
barely
that,
hear him.
for the simple reason that it doesn't want Iran to know whether their attack met with any success. So the fact that the Pentagon is saying it is still evaluating battle damage is really just a placeholder on what really happened.
So you're saying that at this point the Pentagon knows exactly how much damage there was?
Well, they certainly have reports of how much damage there was. One of the first things that would be reported is the extent of casualties, because of course you'd need medical assistance.
Yeah, nothing was reported about that, right?
I haven't
seen anything about actual casualties or anything.
The other.
Now, if there are American casualties, however, that will presumably be reported, correct?
Oh, yes. Whenever an American is, a member of the American military is killed, it gets reported.
Well, right now, both countries are playing the fear game.
I'm not suggesting that anybody was killed.
That's why in my last stream, I made a big point to say that wars today, when people were talking about the draft, wars today are fought with technology and information more than they are actual like boots on the ground and traditional war methods.
From the Pentagon on whether there were casualties.
And now that will make a big difference, though, won't it, David, as to what the U.S. response will be, whether or not there are U.S. casualties?
Well, I think the red line has been crossed regardless of whether there were American casualties. This was a direct attack on U.S. troops. That's a cause for war. So if U.S. troops were killed or injured, I think that would increase the scope of what the U.S. plans to do in retaliation. But I think the red line has been crossed.
All right, David Martin.
I mean, no
at the
crap,
Pentagon.
dude.
Thank
Like,
you.
we knew this was going to happen once Trump made the decision to assassinate the general. We knew this was going to happen. We knew it was going to keep on elevating, and we knew it was going to reach a point of war. You can't stop this, even if you had a guy who wanted to. And we have a guy who wants a war, who is actively working towards a war. The most powerful president's, the president's most powerful position is commander-in-chief.
So we've had these two attacks that we're aware of, one on Al-Assad Air Base, which is about 100 miles northwest of here, and one on the Erbil base, which is about 200 miles north of here. They are both clearly very attractive targets for the Iranians. We've visited the Erbil base on multiple occasions. It's very big. A lot of American investment, a lot of American personnel, and a lot of U.S. aircraft. So you can see why the Iranians might choose to target it. Remember that U.S. troops here in Iraq that number about 5,000 were already on high alert, and they had paused their operations here against ISIS fearing some kind of a revenge attack by Iran.
And Elizabeth, what more can you tell us about what's happening where you are?
Well, for a start, Americans know a lot more about these attacks than the Iranians do. It happened in the middle of the night. It's just after 5 now, and the sun is not up. People who will have been watching early morning TV will have seen the Revolutionary Guard having posted a statement claiming responsibility for this attack, saying explicitly that it was a reprisal for the killing of Commander Soleimani.
So okay, so there's guys
guards have also posted video of what they say are the outgoing missiles being fired from Iran. The missile is a surface-to-surface missile, a well-known weapon in the arsenal. Perhaps more concerning, the guards are also saying that if the United States responds to this attack, the guards in turn will retaliate. So they're really making an explicit threat of escalation. And we heard from David
So Iran is basically saying, like iBro just said in chat, that if the U.S. responds, then we're gonna, then it's cowabunga time.
Situation that could in fact get a lot worse.
Absolutely. And Weijia, you are there in Washington. Do we have any more information about how the administration might respond to this attack?
We know that President Trump has been meeting all night long in the Situation Room with Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of Defense Mark Esper, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and his National Security Advisor.
No casualties for
and
US.
so far, we have not heard anything from the president online
troops.
or in person. And CBS News has just learned that he will not be making any sort of formal remarks tonight from here at the White House. But certainly the question is,
so if there's no U.S. casualties, then we have to question whether attacking the military base will be enough for Trump to want to go
respond in some sort of way. Today, during a string of rare press conferences, in fact, all 3 of those people who I just mentioned, aside from Vice President Mike Pence, gave rare press conferences to say that if Iran were to do anything, were to make bad decisions, that this administration would be ready to respond. And I think part of the reason why we are not hearing from the president tonight is because they still have to decide exactly what that looks like and weigh the potential consequences.
It was interesting too because
Capitol Hill
Trump just told Iraq that he would only pull out of the airport or of the military base if they paid for it.
And
just yesterday, I think, or was that 2 days ago?
As it promises to do, what will Iran do next?
Well, knowing Trump, he's going to retaliate.
Has briefed House Speaker Nancy Pelosi along with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer,
war crimes in the span of like hours.
They are publicly speaking out as well, with Pelosi saying that these needless provocations from the administration.
The only way I could see Trump not responding is if the poll number said that the American people do not want a war, because one of the big draws of Trump versus Clinton was Trump saying that Hillary Clinton would lead us into war. She's a war hawk. She would get Americans killed. So if polling comes out that notions that Trump could actually be hurt by a war, although we know that presidents are usually very helped by the war. So someone just said explosions in central Baghdad. So let's see if...
And that was supposed to happen tomorrow. Is this briefing still going to take place as scheduled, and will it now include more information about the damage done by these 2 attacks and the retaliation plan?
Anyone have a source on that?
Well, as far as we know, it is still on as scheduled. Just today, the White House briefed the Gang of 8 of congressional leaders with classified information regarding that Soleimani attack. But certainly, if that happens tomorrow, as it's expected to, there will be brand new questions about what has now developed and what the administration plans to do moving forward. You know, Pelosi is planning to take a vote, was planning, perhaps still is, especially in light of what happened, to take a vote on a resolution to limit President Trump's military actions against Iran. And so these are issues that definitely Democrats will be raising because they are concerned that, number one,
I think the U.S. will retaliate. It's
to take out Soleimani, given the residual danger that we are already seeing now. And number 2, they want to stop potential escalation.
All right, let's go into the very dark hole of Twitter. Charlotte feels whatever happens next is preventable. Whatever happens next is a choice. This does not have to escalate. So, is Iran doing this? Is he saying, or are they saying, okay, U.S., Trump, this is in your hands. If you decide to respond, then we're going to go crazy. If you don't respond, then we will be fine. I'm going to take that out of the title because Trump actually has come out and said that he is not addressing the people tonight. So I will take that out of the title so it's not misleading. I don't do clickbait. But, yeah. What was Hillary Clinton saying here? The biggest winner of all time.
Imagine, if you dare, imagine him in the Oval Office.
Oh, boy. Okay. Nice knowing you. So I see in chat a lot of people saying Iran has been attacking U.S. forces for a while. How do you feel about the arguments that Iran was one of the biggest forces against ISIS? What would you say to that argument? Because that's an argument used because although he's a bad guy, although he's bad in the area, obviously, he's bad for everyone. Although those reasons, he still was our best force against ISIS. This is Soleimani I'm talking about. Do you guys agree with that sentiment? Because we have toppled dictatorships before that, you know, after we toppled them, it created a vacuum, and we said after we wished that we wouldn't have because it kind of stabilized the area. Although it was not how we really wanted it before, it was even worse after. Yeah, the U.S., they orchestrate the bad guys so they could justify their actions for the American public. Yeah, I agree they were only doing it for their own interest. But what I'm saying is, even if it was in their own interest, it would be the idea that we both have the common enemy. And although they are our enemy, it's sort of a cost-benefits analysis sort of deal. The number of U.S. troops that have died, so far what I'm hearing is that all that happened so far is one Iraqi was killed. That's what I'm seeing from American sources. Iran was trying to spread some type of propaganda saying 30 Americans died, but that I'm pretty sure was debunked. I haven't seen anything about Russia at all lately. Oh, that's not how you type. I'm not sure if anything will come up right away. Putin visited Syria. The world on edge over tensions in the Middle East. One leader seems unfazed. Vladimir Putin of Russia. Is there a video on this up here? Is that what this is?
Regime change if they go too far too fast.
Look, I think it's fair to say that the killing of Qasem Soleimani was what we call a black swan event for the Iranian leadership. So they're stunned. They thought they had pretty well gamed out this administration and this president in terms of his reluctance to use force. So clearly they had not. So I think there is that factor. There's also
Trump
the fact that historically
tomorrow,
the Iranians
so
take their time about responding. In the old expression, time and place of their own choosing.
Well, when
they
we talk
won't
about people
necessarily
hopping in, that's when you
respond
talk
against
about
the U.S., against U.S. personnel or facilities in the near term, and they have to be concerned about the kind of reprisal that would bring. What I'm concerned about, of course, is that they will continue to stir the pot in Iraq and that they may go back to targeting our Gulf partners.
Is the Iranian regime susceptible to deterrence? We had General Petraeus over the weekend.
No time have been announced for Trump. No times at all. Tonight, we thought he was going to speak, and they were preparing for a press conference, but I think Trump called it off. By the way, I saw a couple people subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much to whoever hit the sub button. Let's see if we can find anything else. If anyone sees any more news and you want me to look it up, let me know. Am I drafted? No, there won't be a draft. Someone from Norway, welcome, says they have 70 soldiers in the base that got attacked but we don't get a lot of news in Norway because it's 3 a.m. Does anyone know how many countries have troops stationed in that base that was attacked? Because the media is not really reporting on that. They're just trying to escalate the situation so that they get more and better ratings. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about an explosion at all. If I saw anything, I would. AMTV is saying America might have jets in the air now to retaliate. I'm not sure about that source. I've never seen it before. I am sorry if that is ignorant. Oh, right here. A major development amid reports of U.S. jets. So I'm not gonna. That could be anything. Because we're relying on Twitter for our news nowadays, you know. So I'm gonna stick to the program. So it's only these two people tweeting. Don't make this about politics. It is about war is about politics. If you don't think war is about politics, then you are ignorant. Welcome to Mr. Trump's neighborhood. Wow, so hard-hitting. Has Trump said anything? No, that's always the fun one. Trump is a riot on Twitter. DEFCON warning system. Is that a Twitter page by chance? I don't know. I have never seen this site before. 6 US F-35s have been launched. EU. Someone said EU. EU for what? So MSNBC started this.
Reports now that a second wave of rocket attacks have been launched from Iran. The IRGC was saying that Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of this country, was in the control center coordinating these attacks. Yeah,
I'm trying to... What's a good U.S. site? Live updates. So there's the flight restrictions. I'll move my head to the other side for now. I don't know who would fly right now. So White House officially announced that there will be no additional written statements tonight. National security officials left the White House. Someone said that in chat. Here's a video of the missiles being launched. I'm not sure if that's actually a link. Oh, right here. If anyone has not seen it yet. I will check their Twitter.
Pampers is the first and only diaper with air dry channels. They stay up to 3 times drier, so babies can sleep soundly all night. Pampers.
Okay. This is good audio. So this is the missile launching, and this is it coming down. Or not. I could try to find a video of them hitting if you guys want to see it, but... Is this it? No, that's still launching. Iran threatens to attack Dubai, and I don't know how to say that. Haifa? Haifa? How do you say that? If country is bombed. If Iranian soil is bombed, it will attack these cities. So that's why Israel is on high alert. Is this the attack on the base? Here we go, yeah. I saw her sharing this. Pampers, okay. Cool.
Big thing I recently learned as a parent? Baby's skin is absorbent. Her skin can actually soak up wetness her diaper doesn't. That's gross. That's why I use Pampers.
Pampers absorbs quickly to trap and lock wetness away, keeping your baby's skin drier and healthier. For a diaper that stays drier, count on Pampers. The health of your baby's skin starts with the Pampers they're in.
And we now just have video. This, we believe, shows the moment some of the missiles hit the Al-Assad airbase. This is a cell phone video from someone who is there. We can't independently confirm it, but this is what we understand it is. I want to play it for you. And you could see more of them coming in, as we said, more than a dozen. Jim
yeah,
Sciutto's,
I can't stand how the media gets so much authority when all they do is take really tiny bits of information and try to sensationalize it to the point of just chaos. Because they take a video like this, which could be honestly anything in that region, and they share it to people and try to fearmonger. And before, when they got these fake reports that 30 U.S. servicemen died in the missile explosions, they just ran with it. They didn't even verify it. So here is CBS's live coverage. We love CBS. We love mainstream news around here, dude.
Which is about 200 miles away from the
You won't get drafted in the Army, don't worry. No one's getting drafted.
Attacked. So they really took ownership not only in the launching
Twitter,
of the attack,
but
then again this very public statement from the IRGC, Iran's Revolutionary Guards Council. This is the group that's over the military, saying it was us, it was in revenge for General Soleimani. So it was a very specific message to the United States. But again, I would emphasize the importance of the message domestically in that country as well, that they are punching back against the United States in this case.
So we still don't have battle damage assessments
on national TV. It was something that
we still do not have a firm casualty assessment. We still do not know how the U.S. will respond. We still do not know how Iraq will respond. We still do not know for sure if Iran has more planned for tonight. Now, that would be interesting if they had something else. Thank you, Gabriel, for saying you like my stream. By the way, another person just subscribed, so thank you. Story updated. Here, I'll check that this link. Yeah, of course it's in retaliation. So what they know so far, if anyone wants to read that. Someone from Saudi Arabia is in chat, and that's true. They are pretty entrenched with us, so they could be. By the way, thank you to whoever just subscribed. By the way, I am doing a debate watch party, hopefully, for the Democratic debate. So if you're interested in that, it's next week on the 14th, I believe. If you're interested in that, please hit subscribe and join me for that. We could have some conversation about that. Domestic politics. CM toxic. Stop fear-mongering. We're not all gonna die. Thick Boy says, I never even kissed a girl. No fair if I'm gonna die in a war. At least this makes beautiful. We are only at DEFCON 5. Chill out, people. See, Trump killing the guy, people were like, yeah, we killed the bad guy. But I don't think we should kill every single bad guy. I think we should approach fights in a smart, strategic way. Someone helped me with this framing of the issue in my last stream, saying it's kind of like a boxing match. Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Where, although you could go into a boxing match, and be a heavy hitter, it's much better to be a Floyd Mayweather, who a lot of people regard as the best boxer of all time, and pick your spots instead of just trying to be overbearing. It's kind of like a chess match. So I think that's a pretty good way to frame this. So here is what we know, what we don't know. DEFCON warning system on Twitter. Yeah, we're only at DEFCON 5. Some are reporting that the United States is at DEFCON 2 or even DEFCON 1. This is irresponsible. And DEFCON is backwards. People might think that 5 is the highest, but it's not. It's the low end, actually. Downed U.S. plane report unconfirmed. At what DEFCON does war start? Someone help me out with that because I really don't know. Someone in chat. What DEFCON is war? Can someone list? Or I could Google the different DEFCONs. How about that? We have the internet. Nine steps. DEFCON level. Number 5, normal peacetime readiness. General baseline level during times of peace. DEFCON 4, increased intelligence gathering and security measures. Sporadically throughout Cold War, War on Terror. Number 3, armed forces readiness increased above normal levels. Air Force ready to mobilize in 15 minutes. So this would be like post 9/11 attacks. Here's the historical precedent, if you didn't know that. Operation Paul Bunyan, post 4 power talks. DEFCON 2, high readiness, armed forces ready to deploy in 6 hours. Cuban Missile Crisis. DEFCON 1, there is no historical precedent for it because that pretty much is, the Big Bang. Maximum readiness, all forces ready for combat, nuclear war imminent or likely. So their intelligence community is still saying DEFCON 5. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it hasn't moved from DEFCON 5. Which, I mean, we shouldn't even be looking at this. It's not even... Oh, I forgot I'm on WikiHow. Very cool. Learn to... Step 1 to using DEFCON levels. Learn how to read a DEFCON scale. Well, we just learned. DEFCON 5 for peacetime. Very good thing. So the intelligence community, or at least that DEFCON warning system, is saying, we are in a good position. Third military base hit by Iranian missiles. So this is still a developing story, I guess. Hey, you might not have been able to buy your own alcoholic drink, but at least you can go to war. I think, does the U.S. have the highest legal drinking age? The oldest? Thank you guys for subscribing, whoever just subscribed. 4 is alert, 3 is war. So number 3 is war. For the DEFCON scale, someone just said in chat. Oh, and here's the F-35s that people were telling me about. Someone just saw a city get nuked on Twitter. 2 is large-scale war. And then number 1 we never saw before because... So we don't have a precedent for number 1, right? That site did not have one for DEFCON 1. Nancy Pelosi was discussing the situation in Iran when she was handed a note with news of the attack. Pelosi told members to pray. Okay. Oil prices. Now that's an interesting topic. Oil prices climbed sharply after the Pentagon said Iran launched more than a dozen ballistic missiles. Great. Gas prices. Fill up your tanks, by the way. The U.S. is producing a lot of crude oil right now, but I'm not sure if market forces could offset this. Jumped more than 4% to over $65 a barrel Tuesday evening after the U.S. officials said Iran launched more than a dozen missiles that targeted at least 2 bases. It settled at $62.70 during regular trading Tuesday, and it climbed to $65.48 a barrel. It's very, very significant, as they say here, that it was claimed that the attack was claimed by Iran. It was not a proxy group, so it was direct, and that economy is enthralled with this. and using ballistic missiles from inside Iraq indicated a significant escalation. And the argument, or the market adjusts based off of speculation and what they assume to be happening. And after the first assassination, the first stage of the general, gas prices and oil prices shot up. And now, since escalation is clear, it will continue. Yeah, the U.S. crude oil production could offset the market forces, but there is a point where the prices will go up. I forget the exact metrics behind it. The alerts are on in Saudi Arabia. Someone from Saudi Arabia is in the chat. Thank you for the updates. Always love updates from around the world. Good place we could just all have a conversation about what's happening and try to see past all the mainstream media stuff. Even if we watch mainstream media, we can still go through it and call out which is, propagandizing
the mind to cool and de-escalation to set in.
Right. Well, would you agree, though, that whether or not the U.S. Retaliates here, that Iran is probably motivated to continue its strategy of aggressions, maybe perhaps smaller aggressions, but
for me, the decision point for Iran in the past year or so was May 2019. Until May 2019, Iran's policy was strategic patience towards America. You can wait out the sanctions pressure. May 2019, their policy became graduated escalation. Meet pressure with pressure, ratchet up the pressure, tit for tat over time. Unless the U.S. confronts you militarily, don't change the course. Now there's the potential for the U.S.
Someone reported in the chat that Germany is getting German soldiers out of Iraq.
Or if there is a de-escalation by America and Iran senses this is weakness and pounces, then, of course, the policy could become just escalation.
Why is it saying, for anyone with sense, keep an eye on the DEFCON levels? That's all you need to care about right now.
Why Iran goes from one type of escalation to another. Right
why
now,
the U.S. didn't respond immediately? I'm hoping they're taking their time to strategically plan this. I'm sure Trump is trying to prepare a grand stage for how he wants to present this. Because that's what really matters right now. It's the presentation to try to sway the public interest. Because Americans, it might be long enough after the last heightened war, but it's difficult, too, to wage public opinion because last time we did this, we had the 9/11 attacks. So, of course, that would be huge for American people. It was a point of the country uniting. But right now, the country is so divided, and there's no major event to rally around yet. So we'll see. Germany, there's a couple people that sub to my channel from Germany that comment on my videos, and they said that they experienced, and you guys experienced in Germany, a lot of different government changes and different ideologies. So you experimented with everything throughout your history. So you kind of are... Oh, you're an American in Germany right now. Ibro says, in his opinion, there's no need to look at DEFCON. It tracks the overall global DEFCON level, so it won't be a good indicator for the national U.S. level. But I guess if you're talking about World War III, it's a good indicator. But, I mean, again, the domino effect happens very quickly, so we're not going to be able to predict it. I don't think. The scale is going to shift after we already know, is what I'm saying. Like, we're not going to need the DEFCON scale to tell us, but it's a good indicator of the overall intelligence and where it's at. So this is CNN 4 years ago, praising Soleimani for being the driving force to defeat ISIS.
Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, the leader of Iran's elite special operations Quds Force, when Iraqi troops pushed back Islamic State militants in the key town of Jurf al-Sakhr late last month, Iranian state media and Iraqi news websites suggested Soleimani masterminded the victory. As military advisor, Soleimani is also credited with leading Shia militias and Iraqi troops in key wins against Islamic State forces, advancing on villages surrounding the capital, Baghdad. The Islamic State terrorists sought to surround Baghdad, but they failed in reaching their ominous goals thanks to Iran's support, said senior Iranian military official Esmail Qani on Sunday. Iranian General...
Yeah, so mainstream media was praising this general. That's an interesting clip from 4 years ago. Neocons calling him a terrorist. It's hard to distinguish between terrorist and a state actor because, you know, we look like terrorists to other countries, so we have to really be able to objectivize it and look at the facts. Roscoe, I believe they have missiles in other countries that can reach America. I agree. I mean, I think we have a good... I mean, our alert level is high. Even the 9/11 attacks, last time we got attacked on the homeland on a grand scale, we did get a briefing before that happened. That an attack was expected. We just ignored it. So right now we're on edge. I would hope that we're not going to let anything through the cracks, and that's what common knowledge would say as well. Israel on high alert. Would there be anything on here about Israel by chance? Yeah, so that's... I mean, we have a big crush on Israel. If Israel doesn't get hit, that would turn... Yeah, me too. I hope Israel doesn't get touched, because that would be high escalation. By the way, thank you to Roscoe, Gabrielle, and Crafter Vlogs for subscribing. I can't see everyone that subscribes, but I could see some. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with YouTube settings, but... Yeah, that's one thing about the U.S. We are geographically disconnected from the rest of the world. We are safer just because of our resources, because of where we are. If the U.S. was positioned in the middle of Europe, just from a technology standpoint, it'd be more dangerous than where we are. We have some big oceans. Huh? No, this is stupid. That's not even... Fighting in Libya. There will not be a draft. Do not keep on saying that. I don't know. I mean, it was a meme. It was started by a meme, and mainstream media decided to cover it as if it was some type of really serious story. Yeah, draft is not... I mean, we don't need boots on the ground. We don't need numbers. We need technology, information, and money. That's why it's so expensive. We can see if any presidential candidates have said anything about this. Sanders has not said anything about it. I doubt anyone else did, if he has not, because he has one of the more social media savvy campaigns. Joe Biden, he actually did say something. I'm going to hold off on commenting on the news tonight until we know more. But there is one thing I will say. Jill and I are keeping our troops and Americans overseas in our prayers. We hope you'll keep them in yours. Yeah, so treading the water lightly. Yeah, Donald Trump flexed the other day saying we just spent $2 trillion in equipment to watch out, as if that's like a badge of honor that we're spending money on our bombs and not our people. Selective service means you can be drafted. Yeah. There's a lot of people, like, I don't know what the number is, but in the military that are doing just working, like, jobs. Maintaining bases, information, doing paper work, cleaning, doing laundry, cooking. Like, there's a lot of people in the military right now that are not actually in combat, but they're always ready to go serve at a moment's notice. That's one of the reasons there won't be a draft as well, because we're already not drawing upon that big war chest of people we have. Let's see, anyone else? Trump's speech tomorrow will be interesting. I'm really looking. Charlie, do you think the speech in Iraq, do you think the speech that Trump gave is going to declare war? Well, Trump cannot declare war without congressional approval. Only 1% are actually combat arms in the military. But yeah, Trump, right now, he does need congressional approval by law, but he tends to do things that is not by the law. So the military personnel would have to bypass the law in order to, follow Trump's commands if he did just declare war. I know Donald Trump did say, on the basis of notifying Congress, he did say that his media post counts as a notification for Congress because he did not notify them that he was taking a move. I'm not sure how far down this is because Donald Trump tweets 5,000 times a day. How does he tweet? Dude, how do you tweet this much and still claim you're doing work? Did he post over 100 times? Oh my goodness. Yeah, January 5th. These media posts will serve as a notification to the U.S. Congress that if... Okay, so this might be a lead into what he's going to do. So these media posts will serve as a notification to the U.S. Congress that should Iran strike any U.S. person or target, the United States will quickly and fully strike back, and perhaps in a disproportionate manner. Such legal notice is required, but is not required, but is given nevertheless. So the reason presidents can do this and do things without approval is the idea of a president in general is that we need an executive that could make really fast decisions that can't go through the chambers. Because obviously we know our government doesn't work quickly. And if we have a national emergency or if we have a big war, the president needs to respond like that to meet those expectations. And that's why Donald Trump tried declaring a national emergency at the border for his wall. Because a president has national emergency powers that is presiding over the powers he could be granted by the House and the Senate. We need pictures of the damage. There are no pictures out yet. Yeah, sources are claiming no U.S. deaths have happened. And another thing Trump posted today that I caught on the way down here, because he posts, oh my goodness, dude. Like, if I tweeted this much, I would get nothing done. And he's the president. So he had a very good meeting in Saudi Arabia today. Who's this? Vice Minister of Defense. We discussed trade, military, oil prices, security, and stability. So, yeah, okay. So Trump is combating, doing this war and combating this impeachment trial at the same time. Yes, I am American. How am I feeling about all this? I want war to be reserved for strategic endeavors that have clear goals and have a plus in the cost-benefit sort of analysis. So I want, if we don't need to topple another government, like the plan they're using right now, the whole game plan of like manufacturing public consent, they're following similarly to what they did in 2001. They made their bad guy. They're trying to make the case to the American people that they had to make this decision. And I think ultimately they want to overthrow Iran and leave a vacuum in the area. Say they want to change the regime, which is already what I'm seeing talking heads speak of, another regime change war. You might have heard Tulsi Gabbard talk about that a little bit. That's her whole campaign premise. But they want to have another regime change war so that we could monopolize the oil in the area. That's what I think overall. No, I am not for Trump. I was hoping Trump initially off the bat was going to be more of a pro-domestic America president. And what I mean by that is less money abroad, more money into our people. He spoke of like infrastructure plans. He never did that. He spoke of healthcare. He never had a healthcare plan. Trump could use this situation to de-escalate. That's one of the big things people are sort of missing. I I think he has the decision to make here to stop or continue. And I think he'll do whatever is more politically convenient, whatever will help him, or whatever he thinks will help him next election more. By the way, thank you to whoever else just subscribed. Again, I will be doing a debate watch party live stream next week during the Democratic debate on the 14th, if you are interested in that.
It's just getting to be about 5:30 in the morning. This attack happened about 4 hours ago. We heard it with the two explosions here in Erbil. After that, we also heard helicopters in the sky. And just a little while ago, we also heard a fighter jet overhead. So it's still fairly tense here. Now, we understand that these two missiles landed north of the U.S. consulate, away from the U.S. military presence here.
Do I think there will be a war? I mean, the way things are going now.
We had a team that went by the consulate to see if there was any action there. It seemed
a war, a declared war? No, but I think there will be a war.
Right now, there's just
as
a lot
in
of anticipation.
The president's going to use his powers of individual
decision
decision making.
Another round that's going to be incoming. Right now, really, no one knows.
Had security
I don't know where he is. I don't think.
Up?
I don't think he's actually there. It's probably just a background, a green screen.
All
right, I will be right back. I am going to the bathroom.
We heard them from Shiite militias here in Iraq that they are going to retaliate. They're going to retaliate with vengeance. Americans were anticipating this, but what's interesting is a few days ago we heard from one of the Iraqi militias, Kata'ib Hezbollah, that warned Iraqi soldiers around these bases to stay a kilometer away, so a little over a mile away from the U.S. military presence. Now, was that a warning that the Iranians were going to strike, or was that another warning? That was, though, a warning that something looked to be coming down the line, so that could be part of it also. Something also that's interesting that we're hearing is the difference in numbers. So the Iranians are saying that tens of missiles were fired. The Americans are saying a little over a dozen. I was in Saudi Arabia when the Aramco oil refinery was hit, and something that we saw that the Saudis showed us was that some of these munitions that were fired were duds. They fell in the desert, they didn't make it as far.
Cool.
And so possibly, that's one theory why these numbers aren't matching, is that maybe a number of those rockets that were fired were duds that landed just in the desert. So something that they'll probably be looking in the desert to see if there are any that just fell short of their target.
And you don't sub much, so I very much appreciate that.
Thank you so much for reporting for us from Iraq there. Thank you so much. And Natalie Brand, I want to go to you next. How is Capitol Hill reacting to the news? And we understand that several lawmakers have been briefed. Is that correct?
That's right. The Democratic leaders were called by the vice president. That's Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in the Senate and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Roscoe,
Our
I
Hill
will
producer,
remember you.
Rebecca Kaplan reports that Speaker Pelosi actually found out when she was handed a note during a regularly scheduled meeting, and she told members in that meeting to pray. We know that following that, she did have a conversation with the vice president.
It's hard to tell.
Now, Minority Leader on the House side, Kevin McCarthy, says he spoke to the president, according to an aide. We still don't exactly know
that stereotypical sportscaster that's just in their
details.
bedroom with like a little green screen set up, and he just wears like the top to the suit and doesn't wear any pants, and then he just goes on screen and it makes him look like he's in a coliseum or something. I usually post right now it's more Democratic election coverage. I'm an anti-establishment politician guy, so I'm in the camp of like Sanders, Yang. But I like people who have a broad range of opinions, because if you show me something works, I'm the type of person to agree with it. I'm not that ideologically
as well
driven.
As the defense secretary, and we've heard publicly from the defense secretary and the secretary of state earlier today. The defense secretary was very clear
50 people
about
watching
the
on 400 subs. This other guy I watched has 100,000 subs and had 15 viewers for a whole 2 hours. Well, that is cool.
U.S. interests in the region. Asked how imminent it was, he said it was fair to say it was days. And not
interesting
weeks away,
hashtag.
he also said,
so
and this
there's
was
a no U.S. hashtag for the no
Soleimani
U.S. casualties.
In Baghdad. Remember, he had been traveling regionally. He had been to Beirut. He had been to Damascus. And then he had come into Baghdad very late at night into the early hours of Friday. And that is when he was targeted. And Secretary Esper said that Soleimani was in Baghdad, his words, to, quote, coordinate attacks in the area. So he was taking a very active role in this plot, and that's consistent with information we had here at CBS News from a senior U.S. government official when the strike happened last week. They said Soleimani was personally overseeing and steering.
Yeah, something bigger is definitely planned. We're definitely expecting something bigger. We just don't know what, when, where, how.
Just as sort of a
Are they truly waiting?
Footnote, one of the things I learned through my reporting today is that after the Soleimani strike,
are they really waiting for us to respond, or are they going to pull a Drake? If you ever heard the rap battle between Drake and Meek Mill and go back to back,
who are in this case allied with the Iranians or General Soleimani or the militias, or in Syria or in Lebanon.
Lindsey Graham, did he post anything?
They get on their phones, they get on their computers, they start text messaging, they're on social media. I mean, their comms networks really light up, and that's what they call a spike in the chatter.
I gotta go back up to that chat because apparently I don't know who the hell this is.
A real gift for intelligence analysts because it allows them to scoop up that information and start to identify new potential leads.
Speaking with Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity, I hate that guy.
The U.S. military
hate that guy.
As well as the signals intelligence people, as well as the special operators, at identifying the source of those communications and then really latching into it and not letting go of it until they decide
I know
it's
who
a
he is. I was kidding.
or it's not a target. And when you think about that kind of
all we can do is wait because they're not
steps,
letting anything
that's
out yet.
Really what we saw
Nothing from the Trump
General
White House.
I
wouldn't mind seeing
several days as he
what Graham said on Fox News if we could find that if they posted it. Gutfeld, he's an idiot. He's an actual journalist.
When someone watches the news, they want someone they can trust.
I think.
Our job is to cut through the talking points.
We're going to ask the tough questions because there's a lot
so
of
we could kind of
wisdom
see
out there that needs to be challenged. What I'm doing is
now this is a
I found
weird
a way
opinion on
to run my old computers with no hard drive.
My opinion on Boris.
Here it is. And it's not in.
But first, if you were at an airport over the weekend, you may have seen American.
My opinion on Boris Johnson, in general, what kind of politician he is, I don't like people who come from an upper-class background and pretend to be a man of the people who understands the plight of the middle class.
In Washington,
I just don't like that in general.
Indeed, a massive improvement. It's harder to get rich and powerful.
I don't have ad blocker. I'm sorry. I like supporting my favorite content creators.
And so they descended on television studios over the weekend to describe in detail the kind of violence they're prepared to wreak on a country very few of them know anything about. Here, for example, is Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina.
Yeah,
If the Iranians hit American targets and American interests and American allies, we will respond militarily. If they hit us again, then I would not want to be working in an Iranian oil field because I think the president is determined to bring this regime to its knees if they continue to be provocative. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, assured reporters that the U.S. seeks, quote, de-escalation with Iran, and then just moments later suggested the U.S. might bomb
definitely watch Trump
inside Iran itself.
If you ever have a chance to see Trump live, just go for the show, even if you don't like him. It's a political moment unlike any other.
If Iran retaliates.
That we're living in.
How is that consistent with what you say is your message of de-escalation?
Entirely consistent.
Threatening to bomb mainland Iran?
The Iranian leadership needs to understand that attacking Americans is not cost-free. To take a terrorist off the battlefield does not increase the risk of terror. The risk of terror is increased by appeasement.
The risk of terror is increased by making a martyr.
By appeasement. It's a good line, and it may be true. Probably is true. Of course, the risk of terror is also increased by bombing other people's countries. That is also indisputably true. It's hard to remember now, but as recently as last week, most people didn't consider Iran an
weird break from
threat.
Trump
Iranian
that he usually doesn't
were not
show.
Committing acts of terror in our cities. Oh, but our leaders tell us they were about to any second, and that's why we struck
Someone
first.
said to type in Iran victory into Twitter because apparently they are cheering, I guess. I don't know. Oh shit. There you go. Dude, I don't like them sharing stuff like this because Oh boy, I hate media. Modern media is terrible. Because they're going to take any video they see and try to share it. People just want their clicks, their likes, their views. Like, just wait until deepfakes become more popular. Like, we can barely handle clickbait. Imagine deepfakes, when you actually have a fake video of someone that looks real. Oh, that was a cool, not cool picture, but that was a picture. Oh, great, memes. So this is the missile taking off. And this is Australia burning. Well, that's not an actual picture of the missiles. Obviously, it's a stock photo. Colton Pollock, we need to raise Walter Cronkite from the grave. Why is this coming to save Roscoe? No American deaths, no White House statement. Now looks like de-escalation. Iran has revenge. America does not respond. Averted war. That's what Karim thinks will happen. What I have heard is U.S. said they will not start a war, but if Iraq drops a bomb or does anything, World War III will happen. Costco Gaming thinks. Interesting theory here. We have a refugee crisis in the world. In general, and if we keep on causing wars and we allow the climate to get out of control, it will make the refugee crisis worse. We all sitting here waiting for Donald Trump's next move, like, haha, funny memes. Great memes, haha. Very funny. I love normie memes. Yes, it's the human cost is absolutely terrible. It's insane. Especially when you see pictures of like troops defending ExxonMobil's oil fields, and like Trump, when he first took office, he appointed ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson to Secretary of State, was it, to control our foreign policy. It just lets you know blatantly what our foreign policy is truly based around. We aren't based around peace missions. We don't care about democracy. We care about the almighty dollar. Yeah, I'm like, since I'm an American, like I don't know, I feel kind of like secluded from it all. Like if I was in the middle of Europe, if I was anywhere on that continent, I would be more aware because just technology has barriers. Like I say, the USA is pretty safe away from all of the noise that they cause. Germans trying their hardest not to invade Europe, knowing World War III is about to start. What? Dude, no joke though. Trump's pretty big. He could probably do some damage. Rich man's war, poor man's blood. It is true. It's mostly poor kids going in the service and dying. I'm pretty sure the numbers actually back that up. Nah, people are still making a joke out of it. This is how people deal with modern day depression. They make memes. I mean, I can't blame them. Like, what are we going to do? Modern coping methods. Thank you to whoever just hit the subscribe button. Again, I will advertise my debate watch party live show. Democratic debate next week. I've got my class ready. Let's do it. I like this. France has just surrendered as tensions rise between USA and Iran. France, that's good. Pompeo had a call with Kurdish regional government prime minister. What do you have any information on what came as a result of the call, bro? This month's ending early, boys. They got the old Tupac line. They got monies for wars, but can't feed the poor. Europe right now. DEFCON warning system again. I don't know if they said anything new. What happens in a cyber attack? Well, the internet is really the most, I think, is one of the most penetrable places ever. Especially considering it's not correctly protected, in my opinion, because our legislative process simply can't take care of it because the politicians are too old and disconnected. They don't know how Facebook works. If you ever saw the hearing with Mark Zuckerberg, owner of Facebook, you can see how disconnected the politicians truly are from modern day technology and cyber warfare. And it's not even an age thing. It's really an ideology thing. Because if you really pay attention to something like cyber warfare, I don't know what cyber warfare would actually look like. Maybe there's some sources. What does cyber... You're too political correct. I'm sorry. What would cyber warfare look like? Doing business. All of our financial markets are online. Control of our electronic services are online. Even our vehicles with a Tesla, it's all online. Shutting off our grid would be a big issue as well in the event of cyber warfare. I don't know where we are with that yet, though.
Receiving a briefing about the intelligence leading up to a strike, and then a couple of hours later we heard about this new attack. So obviously there's still a lot of questions. We've also heard from some Republican lawmakers who are echoing some of the statements that have come from top administration officials, that the U.S. is not seeking war with Iran, but what happens next really is up to them. Senator Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana, said, "We don't want war. All we want, it's very
Trump's
simple what we want.
strategy is to be the headmaster of the TV show. He knows how to get high ratings, honestly.
A very fluid situation, and as lawmakers learn more, they will likely say more. But the big question here on the Hill is, what is the strategy going forward? How do you de-escalate this situation? That's something that lawmakers
cyber warfare
will
could
be talking about in the coming hours and days.
It would be terrible.
Natalie Brand, Catherine Herridge, and Weijia Jiang, thanks to all of you.
And like, this is a little bit of a weird concern with cyber warfare in general, but like, it might seem a little off, but the new generations, as we move on through time, have less and less ability to operate without technology. So if there was some type of cyber warfare, and we're not talking about this situation at all, like, the technology isn't there yet. Probably it's being developed in China. There's big issues with China, their products they're shipping out, the chips in the products, that they could be hiding some type of spyware material to infiltrate. But what I'm saying is, if we did have some type of crisis where we did not have electronics, I don't know how people would be able to function, because kids today are given an iPad when they're 8 years old. Yeah, war is so weird just because, like, it's kind of like a fight where you have rules and boundaries with, like, the Geneva Convention. But the thing with, like, rules where it's like, don't bomb certain cultural sites, or don't use chemical weapons, don't use gas, don't use nukes. Even though you say that, laws only matter if they're enforceable. If you can't enforce a law and no one will get in trouble as a result, there might as well be no rules. So they always say, like, okay, we're going to try to prevent nuclear warfare with these rules we all agreed to, like Geneva Convention. But I don't think it really prevents anything from happening. It's a good peace of mind to think we have a hand on things. Thank you, whoever just hit the subscribe button on my channel. Almost at 500 subs very soon. Halfway to 1,000. And whoever is with me right now on this stream having a conversation about the fate of the universe.
On December 31st, Donald Trump said
oh boy.
was for peace, specifically in the Middle East.
What a funny
And then
guy.
on January 2nd, he did this.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Yeah, I don't really care. Okay, so some more information from the DEFCON Warning System Twitter account. Iran says it has concluded its response to the killing of its general. Yeah, they are done responding. We already spoke about this. So that was their response, they're saying. And they basically gave the cards to the U.S. All right, here's the ball. If you decide to attack us, then the game on. And people, someone said that the U.S. spends a certain amount of dollars on the military versus what Iran spends, but it doesn't matter. Like, what matters if it, like, the Vietnam War, like, no one cared about military budgets. There's a lot to think about. Someone said to check Donald Trump's Twitter. Okay, so Donald Trump, official statement. All is well. Missiles launched from Iran at 2 military bases located in Iraq. Assessment of casualties and damages taking place now. So far, so good. We have the most powerful and well-equipped military anywhere in the world by far. I will be making a statement tomorrow morning. Okay, so that gives us nothing. But we do have some indicators, some hints, and this person did us the favor of posting an old Trump speech. I said what Trump said before about Obama and other presidents could indicate what he will do in this situation. So let's see what Donald Trump said a little bit ago. 2012.
For many years. Military check. Well, we've decapitated the Iraqi army. So now Iran is just waiting. They're just waiting. And at some point, there's no question, as sure as you're sitting here, unless something else happens first, like somebody wanting to get elected, and the only way he's going to do it is to start a war with Iran. Because I tell you what, if Iran isn't negotiating now, they got to be crazy. Because they are sitting, and I said this the other day, they are sitting on hot timber. They are really crazy if they're not negotiating. And by the way, they do, in my opinion, want to negotiate. But we may have somebody that wants to have war because he doesn't want to accept a negotiation, which could turn out to be much stronger than war, and you could make a much better deal than war, but it may be good politics. I predict there's a very good chance that we'll end up in a war with Iran, because I think it's politically possibly a positive for Obama, even though it's not a good thing for our country. And you're also talking about...
So he's saying it's not a good thing for our country in this clip, but it's good for politics. So Donald Trump gave a really moderate statement here. It's casual like usual, but he doesn't say anything definitively. So we have to assume either he's planning something big for tomorrow, and that's why he said nothing here, or he's planning to de-escalate, which is why he said nothing here. But knowing Trump's history, it's difficult to assume. Now, someone said to check out World War III updates on Twitter. I'm not sure if that's like a this. Earthquake. So we'll see more on that if there is a earthquake in that region. Someone said to check this out, but let's see. Do you think Trump will respond? I don't know. He is so unpredictable. I mean, he's predictable and unpredictable, which is kind of like, so he's predictable but chaotic, I would say. So, yeah, there's a criticism right here of Obama. This guy, David Wall, I don't know who he is. He would rather have no one else other than Trump making these decisions. He might hit Iran, he might not hit Iran. But what we know he's going to do is he won't send billions in cash in the middle of the night like the last guy did. So that was a meme that went around, like the Iran nuclear deal. A meme went around saying Obama gave them $150 billion in cash, which isn't true. We gave them $50 million total in liquidable assets, and a lot of those assets were actually us giving them back debt we borrowed. So that's a big criticism of Obama that they're trying to wage. Oh, thank you to whoever just subscribed. I think 3 people did. Thank you. Can we stop talking about World War III? There will never be another World War. What do you... Okay, so Wise, if there is going to be no other World War in history, what do you assume the next big war will look like? Products in the U.S. are crafted with Iranian oil in China. Interesting. Someone else just subscribed. Thank you. Gabrielle, do you think the USA will revenge the attacks? Get revenge. Well, I don't know. Here's the president's statement. Tomorrow morning. So, what time do you think that would be? If a president's making a statement to the American people, I wonder what time they would choose. Maybe I'll go live tomorrow morning during that. If I am around. Hopefully, I could catch it. Colton Pollack with an interesting point. He said, remember when they called World War I the war to end all wars? Ooh, that's interesting because Trump just says something about the war, that he assassinated the general not to start a war, but to end a war. So that's interesting. But I think Colton's saying that there is no end to these conflicts on a mass scale. Who would think of nuking Antarctica? Well, I mean, we don't have to nuke Antarctica. It's melting on its own. Thank you very much. Ooh, shout out to whoever just unsubscribed. Thank you. Nuking Antarctica. They should make a movie about that. God, Iran versus USA feels like a video game. Sounds like a video game. Well, I can't argue that Iran doesn't need a regime change, but I can argue that the U.S. should not be the one to do it because we have a pretty bad track record. Ooh, thank you for the 3 people that subscribed. People, thank you very much for being very generous with that subscribe button. Yeah, but I don't. Do we have some good examples? Do you guys have any good examples of a regime being successfully changed? Other than like Reconstruction after the World Wars. Neville Chamberlain, I believe we have cheap peace. If we try to force it, it will backfire. I agree. If we do anything ruled by ideology or politics versus strategy, I think we're losing. Revolution has to come from the ground up. So, what's his name? Sean Hannity had this terrible take today that in order for the regime to change, we had to strangle their economy and bomb civilian targets in order to get their regime to change, because it would cripple them so much to the point where they would hate their own government, which is never what happens. It creates a vacuum in the area if we do that. It happened when we went into Iraq with a resurgence of ISIS. That's what happens. We train people to hate America. We create a vacuum in the area that we don't properly seal. We don't know how to be democracy cops, and that vacuum ends up filling up with an evil force that hates Americans, and you know the rest of the story. Well, Iran is Russia's biggest ally in the region. Someone said Japan is a loser from World War II and can't do anything until the U.S. tells them. I am not very familiar with Japan and U.S. relations, so I cannot speak on that. Yeah, Russia. That's why it's so interesting, too, because the Russiagate conspiracy, where Democrats are saying Donald Trump is a Putin puppet, doesn't really work here because Iran is a Russian ally. So if Trump killed the general for Iran, did he go against Putin, or did Putin want this to happen? And I don't think Putin would want this to happen. Russia and China would back Iran. China did urge the U.S. to suppress the escalation. France backed out. Yeah, France, our allies don't want anything to do with this because they don't see any strategic high ground here. Like, why would they? They probably got Korea too. Interesting ideological alignments and governmental. But so Putin, Kim Jong-un. Chinese military is in Iran. Russians won't let anyone touch Iran like they did with Syria. Syria, Turkey, Yemen. Lebanon, Russia, Venezuela. Okay, so the Ayatollah found many principles of Soviet communism, in particular atheism, incompatible with Iran's new Islamic government. As a result, Iran-Russian relations remained strained until the fall of the Soviet Union in the 90s. With Western sanctions against Iran, relations improved rapidly between the two countries. So Russia is their weapons provider, and they could help them develop their nuclear plan. And that could be a reason Russia wanted Trump so bad, because he would destabilize the nuclear agreement and lead Iran to becoming the nuclear hotspot. I mean, in a proxy battle, like if you wanted to wage nuclear warfare, let's say, you would want to do it through a proxy. Like, you would want Iran to have nukes and use them versus Russia having to. That's not a very strong conspiracy, but see, I think Venezuela is really going to tilt the tide here with their really productive economy. They have a huge military. Their people are fed very well. We don't need anyone, TBH. The U.S. does spend more in military than the next 500,000 countries combined. I love propaganda sites. Fox News, baby. Let's give Trump to Iraq and split the cash. Trump's biggest test. Put your own shoes on without bending down. I need these.
Politics here at Fox. Always happy to have him on our show. Joins us on set tonight. Where are we in this?
Yeah, I'm talking to sources inside Iraq, inside the U.S. Government. Here's what we know. We know that 2 bases have been struck by the Iranians with missiles from Iran, which in and of itself is a huge escalation. Many people thought that the attacks would be coming from proxies inside Iraq. These are fired from Iran. But the choice of those 2 bases is interesting. One was
military spending doesn't matter as much, though, because Iran doesn't need to win for us to lose, if that makes sense. We can still lose even if they don't win. They don't need to be successful. We could totally obliterate them, and we could still lose the overall conflict.
Is this a signal? Is this a message? Is it because the Sunnis and the Kurds were supporting the U.S. and against the Shia in the Iraqi parliament who...
So what you're saying is if you're Iran and you wanted to inflict maximum damage on American troops in Iraq, you would have hit a different base?
And it would have been easier. Balad is a major base, and it's closer to Iran. Okay. I'm reading through the tea leaves here.
No, it makes sense.
I'm saying that we'll see what the damage assessment is, but if, as reported, that no U.S. casualties, we don't know if the Iraqis took casualties at either one of these bases. I think what you're seeing here from your source on the ground in Baghdad could be, more about the Iranian Shia militias that support Iran that may be active inside Baghdad, which we saw during the Iraq War at the beginning.
Sure. Was a defining factor. So how is this, and again, this is moving even as we speak, but to the extent we can tell now, how is this affecting the the presidential race currently in progress. How is that breaking down?
I think we have yet to see. I think that this is the biggest test for President Trump as a leader. It is by far his biggest test. As you know, he campaigned on getting out of the Middle East, of bringing troops home. This is his moment to decide how far to push this, what the response is. And what that response will be will dictate how the rest of the world reacts. As far as the politics, it changed the Democratic race significantly. You've seen Bernie Sanders go hard on this Iran issue. Joe Biden is trying to ride the rails, but he has his own issues about what the Obama administration did with Iran and the red line and the paying
that's
of money
interesting
to
how it's going to
Iranian
affect the presidential
officials.
race for the Democrats.
So it's not, I guess what I'm asking is...
It's not cut and dry.
It's not. It's hard as...
It's very difficult to wage this politically because wars are good for the incumbent president throughout history, but this isn't a normal period in history.
All the way on the other, it's more confusing than that.
100%. And the fact that we are now in an election year, that we are 3.5 weeks away from the Iowa caucuses.
Oh yeah, the first primaries
this is a major event that will have big repercussions. But most importantly, the next steps on the ground in Iraq, in Iran, and whether those targets inside Iran, maybe that shot those missiles, will be in the sights of U.S. warplanes. We don't know.
So is it clear the White House, I hate to use the phrase talking points, but position, like if you were to sit down with the president or one of his advisors and say, what's our plan going forward, is it clear what the answer would be? Or is that the purpose, do you think, of the president addressing the nation?
There's no clear answer.
That's the purpose. If and when he does
should give us a game plan.
There'll be a clear, here's where we are, this is what I'm thinking.
So what is Trump going to do? Is he going to just step up to the stage and say something like presidential? Do you think he's going to stay on script? Or do you think he's going to come up and be a demagogue and try to just totally incite fear and fearmonger to try to test the pulse of the American people and announce a big military plan? Because if you look at Trump's temperament overall, he's not the type of guy to say, all right, well, we attacked them, they attacked us, we're good now. Because the goal seems to be a lot bigger than this. Yeah, wake up the notifications of him saying, I declare war. Oh boy. I hope he does it at like 11 so I could catch it. Like, this is a big period in American history. They're going to be talking about this in history books in 50 years if we still have a human race. But yeah, it's going to be have a lot of repercussions for the Democratic primary race with Bernie Sanders, who I'm actually going to check his Twitter right now to see if he said anything, taking the more left position of saying we should have done more for strategy, less for nationalism, less for he's against assassinating the general. And that's why I'm doing a live show during the Democratic debate, a live stream. So if you're interested in that, please join me so we could discuss the candidates' responses to this issue, because this is a big deal, because the president's most powerful position is commander-in-chief. That's where they have all of their power. That's the one part where they can act and do whatever they want with executive authority, with zero restraints whatsoever, and zero chance to go back on it because of the nature of what you're doing in that position. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Wise. It's going to be all propaganda. Yeah, Trump. I can't see Trump backing down to anything. No one's getting drafted. Don't worry. That's not a war in Iran. How is it possible that there's no U.S. casualties in the attack? I don't know the demographics and the numbers of who is in the base, so I can't really speak on this, what she is accusing Trump of. You know, that is pretty remarkable. It is remarkable how everyone is on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube right now. I don't think the ratings for traditional media sources are doing nearly as well as they typically are, or they typically were, especially with the new media rising and people seeing how fake and sensationalized the actual media is. Yeah, there was a big earthquake in Iran. We heard about that a little bit. No news sources are covering it here. and I can't find any great sources on it. Military would use inactive ready reserve. Yes, the military has a big group of people to pull from. They don't need to have a draft. Like, if there's ever another draft in history, then we have bigger concerns to worry about than a draft. Everyone's like watching this like a sports game, and I feel like Americans, since they're not really affected by the repercussions of war, they're kind of cheering it on from the sidelines as if there's a score, and that's why so many people want the U.S. to attack back, like this person is saying here. I don't think it's because of single-digit IQs. I think it's just the culture and the ideology. We're so accustomed to it, of war, without feeling the effects, unless if your family member is a service member. Yeah, there's no casualties. The media heard there were 30 dead from a really bad source, and they ran with it. They don't care if it's true or not. They care if it's click-worthy. Oh, boy. And that's one of the reasons I made this channel, too, is so I could cover the media. Because, like, a lot of people on YouTube do this thing where they provide, like, an extra overlay over the media, like a little fact-checking thing. But now the media is going on YouTube, and lobbying YouTube to make algorithms to shut out smaller channels like mine, or any channel that's doing media that's not an authoritative source, because they want to push people to CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News, even on YouTube. So like these old media sources know that the television programs are dying out, so they're trying to manipulate YouTube, but they're having an issue because in YouTube, people, if you look at any of CNN's videos, they're gonna get ratioed. Like, they're gonna have 5,000 likes and 5,000 dislikes and 10 likes. Thank you, Wise. Yeah. Interesting. One of my favorite YouTubers that I watch just gave a video of his take on this. Oh, wow. Never mind.
Hello, everybody. I don't know when it started recording.
Oh, what a bad source. No, his videos are usually good, though. He had a good piece earlier today. From Hannity, calling for bombing civilian infrastructure. I know I don't have ad block. I'm sorry. Where's the clip at? Do we have a clip somewhere?
Sanctions has one of the reasons I think Iran is doing all this is because Donald Trump's sanctions has crippled their economy. So they want to respond. They try to respond. They try to retaliate. Well, what's the first thing I think I'd be looking at if I'm an American president? There are 3 main refineries inside of Iran. Now, I'm pretty convinced, I don't know for sure, I don't have access to all the information the president has, I don't have access to all of our capabilities, but I am impressed by what we're capable of doing, and I have faith that if we targeted those 3 main refineries inside of Iran, their economy would go belly up. And what would happen? Then the people of Iran that have been protesting, although there's not a lot of news reporting on it, then they might have a chance to overthrow the mullahs that have been terrorizing even their own people.
Yeah, so what he said there is basically we should be attacking civilians, we should be crippling the economy because somehow that'll help the people there, killing civilians and crippling the economy, and somehow that'll make people like Americans. So Sean Hannity is a doofus. His takes on anything are absolutely, like, it's a shame he's even allowed a spot on television. But on YouTube, he'll still be considered an authoritative source. This is an interesting development in a country. I'm not sure if this would have happened during George Bush's time, with so many people saying to a foreign power that, oh, guys, it's not us. We hate Trump too. We hate our president. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't think we're scared. The U.S. is never scared, and we have no reason to be. We've had a high ground for 200 years. Just from, like I like to say, just from our location. "4:11 a.m. And where are you again, Wise? You know, I'm scared of nukes too. But let me tell you, dude, if nukes happen, we're not gonna have to worry about it. Don't worry. Yeah, you're in Germany, okay. And you're coming back. What time zone do you live in the U.S.? And you're from the U.S., right? 3:12 a.m. for you. Let's go. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast, so it's only 10 p.m. for me. Nukes are bad. It's true. Colorado, okay. Yeah, when this news first broke, you could look on my channel. I did a 4-hour stream from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. On the news that came out, and it was a cool conversation. It was very similar to this one, so thank you all for joining me tonight. I'll probably end the stream in about probably 10:30. And then tomorrow, if Donald Trump is giving an address, I'll hopefully cover that. I'm hoping for it, but I'll be at back in college next week. So I hope my laptop can stream effectively, because my PC at home is a lot better than my laptop. Nuclear winter. The next Call of Duty. Do you see if anyone plays Call of Duty, they're calling it the Cold War. Call of Duty Black Ops 5 Cold War. I think that's the rumors. If anyone plays Call of Duty, are you excited about that? Do you think they're going to use the hype around the war to push that forward? Has U.S. ever dropped a nuke? Was Hiroshima a nuke? Yeah, Nagasaki. Yeah. Japan knows. What type of schooling are you in at So Special? Are you like how old are you? Are you in high school or college or? Nook nook. What? What's that mean? Nagasaki was also a nuke. Yeah, we like nukes around here. Okay, that's a bad meme. USA on Japan, yeah. Dude, Twitter is so cringe. All is well. We could wake up tomorrow. Like, I hope you realize we could wake up tomorrow and be pleasantly surprised with a de-escalation. Or we could wake up tomorrow and be depressed. No one's starting a nuclear war. I would wish that more countries could develop a good missile defense system, because that matters more. A good missile defense system matters more for nukes than actual nukes do a lot of times. Because if you have a missile defense system and nukes, that puts you in such a high place. If you're learning about the Cold War. Because if you have nukes and you could fend off retaliation without having MAD, mutually assured destruction. I'm pretty sure that was a big focus. My one button always pops out on my computer chair. Thank you for whoever just subscribed. I wish I could see your name so I could shout you out, but It's a shame. No, Iran already said that they're done. They came out and said that they're done. If Donald Trump will just put the button down right now and say, okay, well, what happened, then we're good. But if Trump decides to escalate, then Iran said it's his choice, basically. Whatever he decides to say tomorrow at whatever time he decides to speak is going to be what happens. Someone said something about someone went to work in Nagasaki the same day after surviving Hiroshima and survived that too. I don't believe you. There's no way someone survived 2 nuclear bombs. That's not even in the realm of possibility. I don't believe you. You need a Twitch account. Twitch. Maybe I'll stream to Twitch. If I ever actually get like enough people subscribe to my like channel that I could actually like organize some stuff, I think that'd be really cool. But like Twitch right now, I'm not sure how that works. Like, does it work like YouTube does with like recommendations and everything? Because although the YouTube algorithm sucks, I do like the features on it. And I do like how just how it all works. I don't know. It's all in one place with my regular videos. I'm actually thinking of starting to do a weekly show, which is like I was planning on streaming every single Sunday at 9 p.m. for an hour and making like a show out of it, because I do a radio show at my school at that time, but it's like broadcasted on the radio throughout my college. So I was thinking about doing a show 9 to 10, but instead doing a live stream of it onto my channel every single week, and then after that doing sort of like a chat session on here. So I think that might be interesting. But yeah, Twitch is better for streaming. Yeah, it's very... So I don't think anything else is going to happen tonight. So yeah, 10:30 I'll log off. All is well. So far, so good. Oh, that's what Trump said. That's why it's trending. All is well. Ballistic missiles have been fired on American troops, and the guy who provoked it in between golf rounds says, all is well. Would another president have done this? Or would he have came out right away and said something about it? Or would he have waited until the next day? Like, I feel like Obama would have came right out and said something. Good night, Roscoe. Get your 4 hours of sleep. 4 hours of sleep, gang. It's a rough world out here. Yeah. All is well. And Iraqis died. Just because Americans didn't die doesn't mean we could totally... Trump doesn't sleep. Don't lie to me, Babak. I totally believe the theory that Trump does some type of uppers. All is well. He's a reptilian. 200,000 likes already in a half hour. Oh my goodness. Tell you what though, I bet Twitter, whoever owns Twitter, whoever that guy's name is, I forget, but he has to be very happy with this. Come on, I want them to announce when he's going to make a statement. I really want to be there for it. Yeah, I mean, if we look at what Bush did in 2001 to manufacture what is happening, did you see that Mike Pence connected Soleimani to 9/11 and said that Soleimani was instrumental in transporting the terrorists from that situation? Like, it's crazy how they find a way to reroute it back to other terror events to try to connect it in the American people's emotions and psyche to try to support it. Mike Pence is being really visual lately too. So I'm not sure if that's purposeful. See if any candidates said anything about what happened tonight. Joe Biden decided to not make a statement. There you go. Bernie Sanders has not made a statement. Elizabeth Warren, she did make a statement. Okay, so Julian Castro endorsed her or whatever. Tonight, my prayers are with our service members, our diplomats, and our personnel serving in Iraq, and their families, and all the people in the region. This is a reminder why we need to de-escalate tension in the Middle East. The American people do not want a war.
Our military who haven't been able to follow it within the last hour. The Iranian government has announced that it has sent missiles to attack our military bases in Iraq. My three brothers all served in the military. At this moment, my heart and my
She's just being mini Bernie Sanders.
With our military and with their families in Iraq and all around the world. This is a reminder why we need to de-escalate tension in the Middle East. The American people do not want a war with Iran.
Yeah, so she's playing the left side now. She originally came out with a Joe Biden position, but she shifted it to the left when she noticed that Bernie Sanders actually took the strong, like, progressive position of anti-war instead of, like, trying to toe between the lines. Pete Buttigieg, tonight all he said was, tonight Americans in Iraq are under fire. My prayers are with them, their loved ones, and their families. So they're deciding to not make this political. The candidates are deciding to not go political on this. See if anyone else said anything about this. Andrew Yang, thoughts and prayers. Okay, yeah, thoughts and prayers are out from Andrew Yang. Amy Klobuchar. Closely monitoring what is happening. This is such a Klobuchar statement. Love her. Let's start World War III. Yeah, no. Booker, Cory Booker. Everyone cares about Cory Booker, right? Hearts and prayers. Okay. Hearts and prayers, memes. Arrogance from the U.S. 6 minutes, and I'll be off here. Thank you for whoever is still here watching this and having conversations about current events yet again. If you are not already subscribed, please consider doing so and joining me again. Yeah, so this is basically it. Yeah, so right now the war is going to be waged on the ground with public opinion, basically, because whatever Donald Trump does is going to be ruled by if he thinks it'll help him get reelected. So hopefully the American people can show that the numbers do not want war. Hopefully enough people can be swayed away from him so that he makes the decision to not go to war. But if you look at history, if you look at his former speech, he does think that escalating a war will really help him get reelected. So that'll be a big issue, because if he thinks starting a war will help him get reelected, then that's what he's going to do. And I'm wondering if there's still people going live and different media channels covering this, even though it's, this idiot, even though it's basically de-escalated already. See some fake news. Imagine waking up tomorrow and Trump says he wants to go to war with Iraq. Or do you mean Iran? If I wake up tomorrow and he says that, listen, I, Donald Trump, would like us to blow up everyone, assert our dominance. The USA has the biggest military. We spend $2 trillion on military. And that is what we intend to keep on doing. I want to decimate Iran, take control of the oil, take the profits. Nothing happened. Trump lazy. Nah, Trump is running on some type of drug. He doesn't need to be lazy. He could just be motivated by that. All is not. So all is well, all is not well. So all is not. Oh boy, dude. I mean, what's it gonna take for Americans to truly understand the cost of the situation, to stop being so memey about it? What's it gonna take? Like, no fights are waged on U.S. soil. All is well. Assessment of casualties. That is a weird relation that they're both on the same exact page. $215,000 likes. We have no director of national. Is this true? Our acting Secretary of Defense is a Raytheon lobbyist. Raytheon is a defense contractor. We have no director of national intelligence, no Homeland Security secretary, no Navy secretary, and a guy who has a big ego and is really petty. And that's insane. And if you look at all the stock prices for all the military-industrial complex companies, they all shot up when the likelihood of war was risen, which is an insane concept. Like, imagine having stocks that you basically win on if war happens. Like, what a good investment during the Trump administration. Like, it's crazy. Everything's fine. Be prepared, guys, for tomorrow. No, Trump's not doing anything. Don't be fooled. Trump hasn't controlled anything in the military from day one. There's no way you do anything. There's no way you do any job if you're on Twitter that much. I'm just saying, dude, if you tweet 35 times a day, like, I can't do that on an off day. I don't have the emotional, like, endurance to handle that. Like, what kind of person is on their phone that much and has time to just digest all of that? Geo says Iran launched 15 garbage cans and hit a couple of camels. Cool. All right. 10:30. I'm shutting the stream down. Okay, thank you guys for sticking with me. I will be back tomorrow to go over Donald Trump's prepared response. Hopefully I can catch it live. But anyway, thank you again.